Hey traders, this is Chris Pulver here at Market Traders Institute. Happy Monday and happy September. It is officially Labor Day. This is Monday, September 2nd, and coming at you here with a weekly outlook for the week of September 2nd through the 6th. So we have some pretty wild stuff going on. Let's start things off with the currency strength chart. The pound took a huge nosedive this morning. We have U.S. holiday, CAD holiday with Labor Day. The pound and Boris Johnson just tanking the pound right now as everything braces for a collision course with Brexit at the end of October. Boris Johnson stirred things up as it looks like he's trying to do away with anybody that is opposed to him and his Brexit plans. And you can see how the pound reacted. Also taking a look at today's currencies charts and trending. These are all majors and crosses. We have the pound New Zealand, which is showing the most movement on the day. The pound New Zealand has sold off. Let me check my chart really quickly, and we'll go through this in just a moment. But on the daily chart, our pound New Zealand has sold off just on the day around 226 pips. So a decent move. I'm looking for pound New Zealand to continue to go lower. We're looking for a trend line break this week. Same thing on pound Aussie. We'll get to those charts in just a minute. But a nice little heat map on the morning to see what's strong, what's weak, and mapping out the timing of the movement where you can see here the London session opened just after 3 a.m. and the pound has been steadily lower. New Zealand dollar making nice little charge to the upside. Keep in mind it is September. We have a new month. So we're going to take a look at some technicals and look at some monthly pivots as well. So, one quick note for anybody in the path of Hurricane Dorian. I hope everybody is safe. I've been watching this, tracking everything very closely. A lot of friends in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca area, Jacksonville area, Orlando area. So it is scary. This is a Category 5, looking to hit land at 4. I know that's just been decimating the Bahamas right now, but we're looking to see, hopefully, this is an accurate map showing that it is going to be curling around the southeast United States. And not really hitting landfall. But nevertheless, I mean, it's been mandatory evacuations in a lot of parts in Florida. So if anybody has friends, families, relatives in Florida and on the southeast coast of the U.S., wish them well. I hope they are out of trouble and out of harm's way. But man, that's scary stuff. So good thing I'm not in Florida. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the markets. We have the U.S. markets closed today for trading due to holiday. Futures down in the day as tariffs take effect. We have a lot of news this week to digest. Let's take a look at our economic calendar. So there's your bank holiday for Canada and US. We have retail sales coming out tonight. That's 9:30 p.m. That's technically going to be Tuesday's trading day for Aussie. We'll see if the Aussie gets things going. We have a rate decision following up as well. So retail sales, cash rate decision. You're looking at the forecast here to remain the same at 1%. We'll see what the RBA statement says. Is it going to be neutral? Is it going to be dovish? Are they looking to hint again for more rate cuts? We don't know yet. Let's find out. Dollar ISM numbers, GDP numbers for the Aussie again. So a lot of early news on the Aussie and the New Zealand this week. Nope, just the Aussie. Okay. So Aussie is front and center. Trade balance, CAD, pound inflation report hearings, BOC rate decision expected to remain the same, also at 1.7%. ADP is a precursor to non-farm, forecasted for 150. Crude oil inventories, I read some reports on OPEC looking at boosting production. So the whatever it takes mindset and narrative that's been happening the last year or two is kind of out the window. So if we boost production, we should see weaker oil. Major levels on oil are $50. If oil drops below $50, then that's a big sign for some bearishness to come. Personally at the tank, I've noticed it. I mean, we saw just in our area in southeast Michigan, we looked at, 279, 289 a gallon, now down to 239 within the last couple of weeks. So big, substantial drops there in prices at the gas pump. And if that leads into, oil dropping even further, I'm watching $50 a barrel, see if that goes lower. I noticed here Swiss National Bank popping up on the radar as well. Swiss National Bank Chairman Jordan speaking. We will see if the Swiss National Bank is, interested in possibly cutting rates or hinting at cutting rates. Let me see if he is speaking on Thursday. Is there a rate decision? I don't think there is, but let's actually take a look and see this week. Do we have anything from the Swiss National Bank with a LIBOR rate decision? There's Wednesday. Let's see, GDP numbers, and he is just speaking. Is this just a speech, an anniversary celebration, do deliver speech, currencies, money, and digital tokens? Okay. Well, we'll see if it hints anything at monetary policy. The Swiss franc in general, although it's a risk-off currency pair, just like the JPY, the Swiss National Bank is also known for intervention and manipulation, and I'm curiously watching. I'm very interested in watching Euro Swiss levels at 10800, 10750. If we hit those lows, I would expect the Swiss National Bank to step in and start looking to weaken quite substantially. If we also see some risk appetite coming with some dovish central banks and possibly some truce or calmness or no headlines out of the U.S. and China trade war, then If we have U.S. and China that are looking to break some ground and have some communication and talks, and that's what hits the headlines this week, then perhaps we see some risk appetite like we ended the week last week. But let's see. Let me go back to high impact only. It's going to be a very wild week to kick things off. This is our post-summer breakout. Hopefully we're seeing some pairs that have been stuck in sideways ranges or boxes are ready to break out. Pairs that have been trending strongly and fiercely since April and May are looking to have some transitional tops and bottoms for some corrections. But we will be watching very closely. So all eyes on the Aussie this week. CAD rate decision on Wednesday. Precursor for non-farm on Thursday with ADP non-farm numbers. Oil inventory, Swiss National Bank speech. I'm watching that to see if anything happens on the Swiss this week. And then Friday we'll be having a bonus session for anybody in my trading room. CAD and US dollar. We have non-farm payroll for the US and CAD employment as well on Friday. So we'll be running a bonus session there at 8 a.m. Fed Chair Powell speaking. Deliver speech titled Economic Outlook and Monetary Policy at the event hosted by the Swiss Institute of International Studies in Zurich. Sounds like a great way to rein in the weekend, and we've got a lot of news ahead and a lot of trading ahead. So let's get to the charts. Let's take a look at everything. I'm going to go ahead and just bring up some of these monthly pivots. So here is just the monthly pivot that I want to show. So take a look at the blue lines. And monthly pivot has already been, well, we don't have one printed yet because the market hasn't opened yet officially for the stock market, so we'll get into that later. However, this is an important level to note on the SPY. Things I've been talking about in my trading room, central bank support, and they melt up. Are we going to see central banks remain accommodative and allow the markets to get some risk appetite? Will it take the US and China to negotiate in order to sustain this melt up and this drift higher, to have this continue to wedge its way into higher highs for the year, maybe Q3, Q4. This will be the end of Q3, end of September. So we're just kicking things off for the month, but it is end of Q3 as well at the end. Q4, of course, is it going to be, the continued rally and the melt up, or is this going to be just all hell breaks loose? We will find out. But the levels we need to watch, this is the July 31st through August 4th sell-off. If we break this level, look lower. If we stay sideways, look for this to support and continue to drift and be, more volatility ahead. I would like to think we have more trends and smoother movements ahead with higher volatility, but something tells me, unless there's more clarity out of US and China, I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll have central banks that will continue to probably be dovish or be accommodative. We'll see what the ECB comes out with later this month, as well as other banks around the world. But for this week, we'll see what the Aussie and the CAD do, and the non-farm numbers will probably start hinting at what the Fed will do later this month as well. But big levels to watch on the SPY. And how does this affect the U.S. markets? If we can hold these levels, then this is the melt-up continuation. This could go into a larger wedge, eventually falling. And it does seem to be inevitable. Whether you want to realize it or not, it does seem that a fall or a drop is going to be inevitable. It's just what's the major catalyst? Most likely this will stretch into 2020, unless it gets worse now. And so that's why I'm watching this level so closely, because if we break now, then perhaps it's time. Let's just break and fall. Let's have the correction. Let's get a healthy drop so we have some buyers interested in this thing going back up. If not, then we'll have melt up, and this will come at a later date. But this is what I'm preparing for longer term, preparing stock portfolios, preparing how I trade, getting, recession proofed and battle tested, and all these things you need to do to strengthen your portfolio and be diversified. Because things, when they happen, they're going to be wild and crazy and ugly. But we've had lots of warning signs, lots of time to prepare for this, and there's no reason that we shouldn't be positioned accordingly. So that's the stock market. We'll take a look at that and watch it this week. The melt up, it can continue. This is really, in my opinion, this is all about the central banks. Let's get into currency pairs. Aussie CAD, we're at 8343 currently. I'm looking to get this thing back towards 9100. There's still a couple of pivots there. We also have a monthly pivot that actually opened right on price with a last month pivot right around 90. Let's see here. Last month's pivot right around 9067. Looking at previous lows around 9100 as well. So I'm still trying to hold this a little bit long, protecting the buy trades. If oil drops below $50 a barrel, then the CAD will certainly weaken and will most likely bring this up towards 92 or higher. Aussie Swiss. This is another currency pair that I'm pretty interested in holding long. We have a monthly pivot right in here around 6803. I have a medium to long-term approach on Aussie Swiss to hold it. I'm trying to get it back towards 6950 and 7050. Aussie Yen, let's take a look. We're still in the yellow box. If you watched my video last week, there's a monthly pivot back from August We opened right up on this month's pivot. We have to break out of this yellow box. So are we going to come out swinging with a break and drop, a break and go, something that gets us out of this range that we can trade? This is the currency pair. This is the yen basket. So if the yen provides breakouts, then I'm looking to trade with it. And it'll be a pretty straightforward trade. I mean, you're just looking for a daily close and stay with the direction. Daily close, stay with the direction. Use your stops, try to go after a decent risk reward, and possibly consider deploying some systems as well in the direction of some breakouts and trends. Aussie New Zealand. This one must have been doing an example there from last week. We have a monthly pivot sitting around 105.40, and I have here on my charts an add-on zone around the same area, 10500. So if we do see a correction back towards 10500, that is fine. I'm looking for this to be a movement up. If we get a pullback, I'm looking to add to it and then look for more higher highs towards channel highs or 108 and change. So I'm still remaining long on Aussie New Zealand, and I'll continue to do that. Aussie dollar, we've seen a slightly stronger US dollar, but again, building off of these lows, hopefully channel lows are going to hold. Let's get a move to the upside. Now, what needs to happen for this Aussie dollar? Currently, the dollar stays stronger. I'm just going to drag this trend line out and see if we can hold these nice lows. So this was a little low from early August. This would have been that, 8 or 9 consecutive days in a row where we had tons of bearishness on the Aussie and just kind of a relentless strength on the dollar. And we had a sharp bottom. We have another bottom over here that just happened last week. So what are we watching for? Well, I'd like to see a trend line break. So if this just stays around this low, slow, we need something to help drive this above this trend line. That would open up the doors to this movement towards the outer channel around 6,900. If we can break and get into open territory again, this is going to be chunk 1. This would be chunk 2. There should be a big bullish trade coming, but we need to get a big turning point. Whether it's risk appetite or whether it's the dollar, something needs to allow this to turn. So not forcing any trades here. We have a great alignment of pivots. You can see my monthly pivot from August right there at 6,900. And we have a pivot that just started from September here that's right at price or just a few pips above it. But nice little pivot cluster right in here and daily pivots as well. 69.21, that is the number that I'm going after. If we hit channel resistance, that's right around that price. So I'm trying to hold some small, long positions on Aussie dollar going up towards 69.21 or higher. CAD Swiss. I actually booked some profit on the CAD Swiss today. We came back into, this would have been Friday's candle right in here. And we came very, very close to a nice little pocket that I was watching around 74.70. So I did close some partial positions. I had some robot trades. I had some manual trades. And we were buying this thing nice and low around 73.70. We had some spikes around 74.70. So we have about 100 pips to grab right there. I still think this is a good one to hold some partial positions and hold long. Let me zoom out on this chart and you'll see what I'm at. So let's get rid of all these candlesticks for a second. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to zoom out, look at the structure on the higher time frame. You can see some really nice support. If we do end up coming down lower, that is totally fine. I'll buy it lower, trade it up. Resistance, resistance, resistance. So you can see that support resistance area. I'll just do some nice fancy circles here. So we have resistance, resistance, resistance. This would be a nice future resistance zone. Support, support. Look left, you've got tons of support over here as well as down here. So between 7150 and 7,000, pretty big numbers there, and channel structure that should help this hold. But if we just stay long, I'm fine with that. 7,600 or higher is going to be my profit target. CAD Yen, this one should be in a yellow box and holding. It is, so we're going to wait for a breakout. Swiss Yen, breakout to the downside. Now, this is not necessarily the yen that's driving this. If you take a look at the currency strength chart, the Swiss, outside of the big movement on the pound for weakness, the Swiss and the euro are also neck and neck for the weaker currency pairs of the day. Now again, keep in mind it's very low volatility overall. Pound has had the movements for the most part, but Swiss is still somewhat weaker. And this breakout that happened last week, we were talking about this in my trading room, we broke out to the downside with this red candle. It was something we could consider trading. Just be careful, it's an individual trade. It's not a basket trade. This is not the yen. This is the Swiss. The Swiss has been weaker, and therefore this would be the trade. So we've got a breakout here right around 107.75. You're looking at price up about 50 pips. So in my opinion, if I was in that trade and I was currently short, I would essentially be sitting at break even or +5 and just let this thing go. If it ends up pausing here and going lower, working lower, excellent. Let's come to 106.50. Let's grab some pips there. If you're not in this trade, I would not take a trade right now. I'd wait for some type of pullback here and see if you get a rejection for more selling so you can put a decent stop loss in, or we'll see if we have the yen basket responding to something different, possibly a rally to the upside, but that would have to break this trend line. All right, so watch this pair if you want to trade it. Otherwise, keep in mind this is safe haven versus safe haven, so this one might be a little bit trickier to trade. Euro Aussie, selling back down, and I'm going to hold this trade. I'm looking at monthly pivot around 61.50. This nice little channel box. We have a larger rising wedge on the Euro Aussie. I'm looking to get this thing into 6,000 or hopefully lower. So I'm going to continue to hold this Euro Aussie short. Euro CAD, nothing to do on this one. I'm just holding my CAD Swiss long, but I'm watching this pair pretty closely. I am interested in a buy zone around 4,500. So we may, and I'll watch this for this week as we start talking about this and discussing it in the trading room, we may have some levels in here that I'd be watching for some indecision around 4,600. If this ends up forming, you know, a nice little jump to the upside, then possibly a stop and type of swing that gets us back up towards 5,000. That's been a really key number of past support and resistance. So I want to see something jump this thing up. Again, it'd be a weaker Canadian dollar that poses that move, not necessarily a euro recovery. Let's see if the CAD takes the cake on that one. Let's see, Euro Swiss, 108.60. Not much going on in this currency pair. It may stay in this channel a bit longer. I do have some buy areas noted. As you can see, this is a French election gap from 2017, which that gap is filled right around 107.20. So I'm looking to buy off of that level. And if we get filled at 107.20, I'm just waiting for a trend line break and channel break. And from there, hopefully it's a nice big recovery to the upside. Next, let's get into Euro Pound. With the pound on the weaker side today, we are getting a pullback. Now, this is going to be interesting. Is this pullback just nothing more than a correction before we go one more push lower? This could be 1, 2, 3 wave correction to the downside. See if we can test this low around 8,900. We'll have to see how, you know, Boris Johnson and headlines and the pound moves unfold this week. Keep in mind there is news on the pound this week. It's an inflation report, if I'm not mistaken, inflation report hearings. Now, that may not be enough to overshadow everything going on with Brexit. You know, there's heightened sensitivity on Brexit. You know, anything coming out of Boris Johnson's mouth, anything headlines around Brexit is making the pound move, and right now it's not moving very positively. So a lot of it is just pressuring the pound nonstop. But I think that's also just limiting some exposure as well. But inflation report hearings, we'll see if that's positive or negative. Possibly something comes up for Brexit this week, but keep an eye on those prices and try to get that exposure down to a minimum there. But we'll see what this Euro Pound does. This is also a low and slow volatility pair. So high, low, little correction. See if we can have one more push to the downside from this area. I'm looking to protect anything that I'm having short. So I do have some sell positions that are still in. And if I get into profit right around this lower at 8,900, I'm going to take everything I can and just walk away and not worry about pounds anymore. Euro Yen. Swiss yen did break to the downside. Euro yen did break to the downside. All of us agreed in the trading room last week we would not force a trade on this. Let's make a solid trend line there. I'm just going to hang out and wait. Clearly, there is a break to the downside for right now. We did just take out this low as well. So to kick things off for this week, it is a holiday trading day for Monday, but do we have something like a wick or a long indecision candle that gets us something bullish this week? Look, I mean, Euro yen's in an open space to sell. But if we have Aussie yen, CAD yen, one of those two currency pairs breaking north or south, or dollar yen breaking north or south, to me, that's more of the yen basket that you want to trade. Euro has been weaker. Swiss has been weaker. And therefore, we've had those little breakouts and subtleties to the downside. So this isn't my favorite currency pair right now, but I will be watching the yen pairs when they line up. And this one, to me, is just a weaker euro. So the euro is selling off. We're breaking these lows. If you look left and you compress this chart, this also looks pretty solid for support, and if we drift a little bit lower, we could have some nice future support right in here around 115-ish. Let me use a crosshair and find out. So that is right in here around 115. So possibly a round number there. That's about 150 pips lower, which means this can break out. I mean, we did see some indecision here and some sloppiness and volatility during August. This could be breaking further to the downside. Right now, path of least resistance is more bearishness on the Euro Pound, or the Euro Yen. Euro New Zealand. Kiwi is strong. This is a nice trend line break we've been waiting for. We got filled at a couple of levels. I have two small trades in on the Euro New Zealand that I'm short. My break even is around 1.7270, so I'm just upside down about 100 pips or so. Now, what I'm looking for is this to continue to go lower towards 1.70, and hopefully this is the start. We have some nice resistance formed here. If we get on the right-hand side of this trend line, let's break back down into this area, ideally 1.70, and I'll probably take some profits. So that would be it'd be a break even on one trade and a big 500 pip win on another trade. And that's really where I'll look to protect. Euro dollar. Last week, the euro dollar did some massive damage here to the 110 area. You can see that we had 110 holding, 110 holding, 110 holding, and then last Friday, big break to the downside on the euro. So where are we headed? Well, this wedge is still holding, this channel still holding, but again, what is the upside? We need to see something major happening on the dollar to turn this. We need to see something very different out of the European Central Bank to turn this. Right now, I don't necessarily see that happening. I think for this to turn, it's going to have to be the Fed. I think the Fed's going to have to be willing to weaken, to cut rates, to talk about maybe cutting rates 2 to 3 more times by the end of this year. And if they do that, then we can start seeing a wave of dollar weakness. If we don't see that and it's just, month by month, it's very close vested and the Fed is very secretive and very vague about what they're doing with interest rates or monetary policy, then this is an easy trade just to hold. It's not moving quickly at all, and it probably won't move quickly, but we're going to have something drive this. Technically speaking, I love this French election gap around 10800. I do have a pending buy sitting at 10800 just in case, but I will play that. Step one is going to be getting it to the channel. If this is a buy trade to the channel, that's a great trade for probably 300 to 400 pips. If we break and go higher, well, now we're talking the move that we've been waiting for, technically speaking, for months. But this is a 1-year indecision channel. So to say the least, this has not been an exciting currency pair outside of range trading, which continues to be range bound. If there's any, now that 110 has been broken, I would say 10800 would be the next major level of support. If anybody's interested in buying at a bargain price, 10800 would be that level. If you're looking to sell it, it is slow, slow, slow. We took a nice sell trade around I don't even remember what it was. We sold this thing on a little indecision breakout. I could zoom it back in. I think we sold it right here. We sold it right here in that breakout, took it down for 50 pips and closed it, pulled back. It used the same level of previous support to become resistance, and it sold off again. So the downtrend is still alive and well, at least in the short term. You can see it's really choppy, it's really slow. Be careful. It's range bound for right now, but clearly a little bit bearish on that channel. But 10800, that's a big level. So we broke 110. Let's see what happens this week, but I'd watch this thing probably drift down towards that French election gap around 108. And of course, if we hit 10800, it's not that far off to see these lows from all the way back in 2015 and again in 2017 to see if we have 108 or 105 acting as the major support levels on the euro dollar. All right, let's get up on the pound pairs. We know what the pound pairs have been doing. They have been selling. Has any major structure been broken in the pound Aussie? Not really. Okay, we're still at channel support. This week, if the pound continues to take a turn for the worse, then we'll look for this to be a sell, and we'll get active to the downside. Pound CAD, 6054, a little bit of a pullback. Let's see if we can get something to the effect of this as a corrective move, pullback. I'm looking for some indecision or a double bottom, and then one more push, hopefully to the upside towards 65 or 6600. That's going to be a little bit different because that's obviously looking for some pound strength, but we're on the right-hand side of the trend line that started way back here in May. So we'll see how this one behaves. But again, I'm trying to tell traders, limit that exposure on the pound pairs and not worry about it. Pound Swiss. We have some positions up there. I still think pound Swiss can come back towards 1.2250 or higher. Again, is this a 1, 2, 3? A little wave pattern that gets us up to 2200 or higher. Grab some profits there and be done with it. If we come back in for bottoms, well, just watching carefully. Let's see how this behaves. Can we get on the right-hand side of this trend line and then have permission for the bulls to take over? Time will tell. Pound yen. This one broke to the north, but you can see was not sustained. We didn't take this trade. We didn't take it to the north. I'm not selling this. I'm kind of out of interest or not interested in the pound yen for right now. I have other pairs that I'm interested in as far as yen goes. But this pound yen, let me get rid of that encapsulation for a moment. Right there. And, if the yen wants to weaken and we see this pound yen break this trend line and break the structure there and hold these lows, that'd be fine. But more than likely, pressure remains to the downside on the pound. Pound New Zealand, same thing. Pound Aussie, Pound New Zealand, take a note of those. I really like selling both of them. Okay, so we're coming on down to the monthly pivot for September. It's literally the first day of trading. We're heading down towards it right now. Watch this channel. This is a corrective channel. If we start getting price on the right-hand side of this channel, I'm looking for selling. If it starts to drift, I'm looking for pullbacks and trendline breaks. I'm looking for wedges. I'm looking for anything, flags. Just give me a chance to sell it. All right, if we end up breaking here, pulling back to retest the highs, I'm looking to sell it. Target the lows. So I do want to sell pound Aussie, pound New Zealand. We have some nice channels and trend lines on each one that once they're officially broken, I'm going to look to sell both of them. Pound dollar, back down towards 2050. We have lows right around the same level, 2020, 2015 or so. Is 1.20 going to be the stick point? Can we actually hold the lows at 1.20? It's a major level. Major level. Watching, this is a really, really critical week on the pound. If we break through 1.20 to the downside, then things are going to start looking pretty messy for the pound. All right. If we hold this level and we just consolidate, well, that shows that there's clearly some interest to hold this up around 1.20. But keep an eye on it this week. It's not that far off. 50 pips lower, major support, but it's got to hold. Otherwise, just keep the pressure on. If you want to take advantage of it, sell those pound pairs in short-term trading. New Zealand CAD 8404. Watching this one, if we end up coming into this yellow box, I've got previous lows back in October of 2018. We have a huge channel as well on the New Zealand CAD to the downside. I can show you that on the daily chart. So New Zealand CAD, channel high, low, channel high, low, channel high, low. If we hit this yellow box area, it's right around 8,200. I don't know what happened to my arrows there. Right in here, 8,250 to 8,300. Look left. You've got some nice support there as well. If we break this trend line, that's all I'm really waiting for. If oil gets below $50, that should weaken the CAD. We probably need to see that happening here to carve out a low on this New Zealand CAD and start getting some buy trades. So watching this pair, I mean, this has been a steady decline since July. Even for, typically non-trending summers, this has been a pretty steady downward move. So do we have some channel support that's lingering here in September? Possibly, but let's wait for a trendline break before we buy the bargain. Otherwise, let's see it will, maybe hit 83, 8250. Look for some bottoms or indecision. Watch it on a higher time frame. Let's get some nice clean U-turns on this one with our indicators and systems. New Zealand Swiss. This one I'm still interested in holding long. If we can hold these levels and get above this yellow box, let me extend this over just a little bit there. Okay, extend this over there. If we can break the top, that's really all I'm interested in. Same thing, you have lots of channel support, resistance support, resistance support, resistance support. If we break this yellow box above, trade the channel up. And it could be a medium-term trade higher, but I'd be happy just grabbing a few hundred pips. This is roughly 62 to 66. That's 400 pips. It's a nice chunk of change on the New Zealand Swiss if we get it. New Zealand Yen. I don't know where all these arrows came from. New Zealand Yen did break to the downside. It still hasn't taken out the gap. We had that Friday to Sunday gap last week, and there's your low. We have a really clean trend line here from July. There's a nice steady downtrend. If we get on the right-hand side of it, I'm interested in buying it, but I want to see the U-turns confirm. I don't want to just jump in and say, hey, it's a good price, let me buy it. No, I'm going to wait for confirmation and a trend line break before I do that. New Zealand dollar, same thing. I like the New Zealand dollar. We're currently trading at 6,300. I have said that if you wanted to scalp this one from anything below 64, we're bearish. Next major level is 62, and we put in a pending buy last week in my group around 62.07. So, nice little trend line break. If we get it, watch for this 6,200 area to hold. If it holds, I like this moving back up. How big? Well, it's a pretty tight stop compared to previous support. Lots of inefficiencies and pivots as well. That goes all the way back to 66. So if we keep a stop loss within 50 to 100 pips, we have a nice pivot around 66. And we have previous highs around 68. So lots of upside potential if this will break the trend line and give us a U-turn, which is what I'm watching for. Dollar CAD, 33.21. Nothing to do on this one. Dollar sideways and choppy, oil sideways and choppy. Dollar CAD is a play off of both of those. I'd say it's easy to leave it alone. Dollar Swiss, back up towards 99. We've been holding support at 97. 99 is resistance. I'm watching, I'm not trading. I'm waiting for, hopefully, some bargain shopping down here at 95 or 92. Dollar Yen, 106. Not above or below the yellow box. Waiting for this breakout. Dollar Peso has been steady to the upside. I've been saying since the breakout here, around 19.2, especially once we clear these highs at 19.8, it's going to be a slow bullish run, and it is. We're probably heading up towards 20.6, 20.7. Look left on your charts. These are highs back in November of 2018 and also back in June of 2018. That would be where I'm interested in selling. Okay, but right now it is a slow grind to the upside. If anybody's trading this, be long, grab some profit, protect it along the way. Dollar krone continues to stay long, and it's slow. This is wave 5. Let it run. I'm not in it. I'm just watching. Oil, 54 and change. We've seen a lot of movement in, I'd say a lot of volatility in oil, not really a lot of direction. You know, this is volatility for sure. 57 down to 53, 56 down to 54. Watching for $50 to break, watching for 60 to break. This could be the next big move on oil. I mean, I think once we clear above or below these levels, watch. Are we going to break this low? Support, support. If we break that low, we're heading down towards 42. If we have resistance, if we break above 60, can we head up towards 69 or 70? Time will tell. But if production increases, I'd expect it to fall. If oil drops, expect the CAD to get weaker. Right? Let's see, that's oil. Silver. Silver's been on a tear. It's been awesome to watch, and I'm glad I'm in it. I'm trading SLV. We had some traders talk about USLV and some other instruments that you can trade with more volatility and better pricing. This is just looking to stay long. This is XAG USD is the instrument. I know that if you're an international trader, you can actually trade this directly from a broker platform. Look for $20.65. If we have a pullback or correction, that's fine. Pullback correction, look for a higher low and another push. We should be hitting $20 here fairly soon on silver. Gold, 15.29. I still think that 15.35 needs to clear. We haven't seen any new highs yet. We're still staying pressured to the upside. This could continue to drift. We might pause a little bit more in this yellow box. We did it here. Pausing, 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 then break. Pausing, 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 then break. I am watching this pretty closely just in case we have a wedge. If we have a rising wedge forming, then this could give a little bit back. And again, this is also major resistance from several years back. So if we do have a correction coming on gold, that's fine. I'd still look to buy it at lower prices around 14 or 13.50 and take it up much higher. But if we can just clear 15.35, just like silver's looking to run to 20, then we should see this thing continue to run. You know, 1600 comes into play, 1700 comes into play. And we're talking about some, you know, maybe even going towards all-time highs again in gold. And anything else, Bitcoin back up towards 10,000 after taking a little scare last week. We had lows around 9,300, and we've had a few slow days to the upside. But channel remains, big run. You have to remember, this is a big run from 3,500 to nearly 14,000. Okay, 13.5. So this makes sense that we have long move to the upside, correction, 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 correction. Whatever needs to take place, it's just correction. So we could have some support. It could be channel bound a little bit more, but there should be some buying interest coming later on. Looking to continue to play some Bitcoin there longs. And Ripple sits around 27 cents, 26 cents. Be patient. Nothing is happening. It's boring. It's, I mean, look at these pivots though. This is amazing. I just noticed this on Ripple. Monthly pivot, monthly pivot, monthly pivot. If we go after some pivots, we should see a run from 26 or 27 all the way up towards 40 to 44 cents. That's going to make a lot of traders some money. That's double. That's double. If you're building a position right now, that's just shy of doubling your money. Now, if that also starts breaking this larger structure, now we're talking a much bigger move. If we get to 40 some cents and looks promising on a breakout, we're probably heading up towards this area, which is just shy of $1, which is 2.5 to 3 times your money, right? The dollar could be the big range where we build up highs and lows, but I think everybody's wanting to see, does the crypto world on some of the majors, do they come back to those 2017 highs? We'll find out. But I'm still holding a small, I'm holding, that's my base, around 30 cents to 27 cents. That's my base I built up on Ripple. Bitcoin, my base is around $5,500. So I'm sitting good in all those. I still have Ethereum, Litecoin, some majors. But of course, watching. Okay. So it's going to be an interesting week. We have a lot of news, a lot of focus. It's kind of front-loaded by the Aussie. We have CAD rate decision, Aussie rate decision, ADP, non-farm payroll, employment news, inflation report for the pound. We're going to have Brexit news. We have tariffs hitting the market. It's no longer summer, right? On the calendar, the official end of summer is September 23rd, but summer trading is done when you get into September. So usually this is a pretty wild week with a lot of news, and you can see it here. So how does the market digest it? Let's find out. This is Q3. Are we going to have a big push for the end of Q3? And then what is Q4 bringing? Watch the stock market. If the stock market is dropping, expect JPY strength and Swiss franc strength until you have a point of intervention by both banks. We still have the melt-up possibility if central banks are going to be accommodative. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Just in my opinion, I think that this whole drop in the stock market will probably be galvanized by a 2020 presidential election. Doesn't matter if it's Trump, doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter who it is. I think it's inevitability that the market's just delaying and kicking the can down the road. But for right now in 2019, we take it one step at a time. We've survived. We had a great year so far, and no reason for us to stop now. All right, so have a good week, everybody. I'll see you all in trading rooms and classes. And this is Chris Pulver at Market Traders Institute. If you want to get a hold of me, just so you know, you're watching this video, there's ways to get in contact with me. Here are some of those respective handles. So on Instagram, at pulver.chris, Twitter, pulverchris, Facebook and YouTube, just my name, and email for Market Traders, cpulver@markettraders.com. Let me know, send me a message, and I'll get back to you. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.